Hi there, knife people. Hello, lady and gentlemen. What is in this box is destined to become a best-selling knife for 2026. It is a Microtech and it is related to MSI family of knives, but it's not exactly one of them. Before I get into the box, let me tell you that I consider myself an MSI expert because this knife, not knife like it, this exact knife, forever changed the direction of my channel and left a permanent mark on my hand. Because when they first came out in 2023, they had a major issue with the lock. It unlocked easily with even the lightest spine whack. And I found it the hard way and received the souvenir in the process. And the production of this version of the lock continued into the early 2024. So before we go any farther, if you don't own an MSI, which I still consider one of the best US-made knives ever, but if you don't own one and plan to buy one, look at the pocket clip, at the birth date, and if it's before April 2024, you may end up with an old-style lock. I will show you the difference later in the video. If you buy a knife that is dated anytime after April 2024, it will come with a new lock and it will not be easy to unlock by accident. Now that I got that out of the way, let's get into the box. I'm not a professional unboxer, so I'm just going to pull the knife out of the baggie and show it to you. Definitely, it is still an MSI, but magic. It is Mini MSI. We'll discuss the name again later in the video. For now, let's just soak in the view. Let me get the simple stuff out of the way. This is made in November of 2025, and I purchased it from the company called American Edge, which, by the way, I am not affiliated with in any shape or form. I paid full retail price. It looks like American Edge has early dibs on a lot of interesting, rare, or desirable knives. So always check out their website when you're shopping. And again, I am not getting any kickbacks from them for saying that. I'm just excited to share with you that I found them, thanks to one of my viewers. So the piece de resistance of this knife, it's a proof run knife. That's why you're not seeing them for sale anywhere. There might be another company or two that has them, but me personally, I only seen it on American Edge. And it's a signature series, so it's more premium than the base version. I expect the base version will come out next, although you never know. And what I expect from the base version is the FRN handle. By the way, the most robust FRN handle, I cannot compress it any more than I could compress aluminum handle. Anyway, it'll probably come out with this style handle. Now, this knife, when it came out in 2023, was $172, which was a crazy good deal because for the price of less than a Benchmade bug out, you could get a full size. I mean, we're talking a hunk of a knife. Look at this thing. A lot of people were excited, and then this incident happened, and then other YouTubers picked up on it and started showing this failure test in their videos, and eventually Microtech reacted and changed the lock. Sorry, I digress into that again. Okay, so aluminum handle, frog pattern on the handle. I believe these are titanium spacers. They reduced the size of the ram head on the lock here. I hope you can see it clearly. Let me maybe put it like this. All in all, the knife shrunk by 15 to 20% in every direction. And I'll have the exact measurements later in the video. Right now, I just don't want to lose the momentum and give you my first impression. Yeah, I just opened the box. The handle is still cold from being on the mail truck. And I'm checking it out along with you. The action is actually snappier by quite a bit, which is unusual. The smaller blade usually has less inertia. This is kind of a slow deployer, not particularly, you have to wrist it out. And the original locks were prone to lock stick and no rocking in any direction. That was solid. But the newer locks, like on this knife, don't have lock stick, and they are actually a little easier to deploy because what they did is they addressed all these issues when they redesigned the lock. Now this one deploys even snappier than that one, and it's probably running on bearings. Let me use my flashlight here. I use this new version of iMini. It's a I Ultra. Really digging this little flashlight. It comes very handy, and I can see bearing bowls in there. I hope you can see as well, but we'll have a closer look at the internals a little later in the video. And the pocket clip got smaller accordingly. I don't know if this basic shape of the pocket clip will transition into production, or is it just on the proof runs, but it's different in the sense that it's not only shorter, but it doesn't have this little, I call it pocket seam grabber, little stiffener, little indentation here. A barb, that's the term. Looks like they got rid of these, like right here, these strange slots that's supposed to interact with the screws, but they actually don't add any functionality. And they got rid of them on this pocket clip. So I like simple, I like smaller pocket clip. Let's talk ergonomics just for a short time, because I do have some complaints here just from the first impressions. As soon as I gripped it, I could feel it. So on the original, this finger cutout is large enough to accommodate both my index and my middle finger. Now my hand is medium to large size, mostly medium, so I have no problem. Both fingers find that nice grip in that indentation or in this recess, and my hand is very happy. Now here I have a really good choke up position. By the way, the cutout here, the choil changed through the generations. You can see that the original knives had a little bit more of a ricasso here, which disappeared on the later version, and this has a slightly different shape and slightly larger, although that could be an illusion. They shaved off this little corner here, and now you have a fully functional finger choil with a really good choke up position for your index finger. Now the ramp for the thumb works as well. Let me see on this one. Let me try that. Yeah, on this one, I have to kind of push the thumb back a little. They shrunk it proportionally with the rest of the knife, but I think they could have made it a little longer into the spine so that the thumb in this position finds it easily and I don't have to reposition it. I'm still able to choke up, and it actually, this grip actually alleviates some of the discomfort that this hollow space creates. I can have a full thumb engagement with the tang of the handle for, you know, for the situational stuff. And by the way, the finger choil doesn't work for me because my finger ends up on the edge in either forward or reverse grip. So you have to be a little more careful. I hope they will watch this video and extend this choil. All they need to do is add another 2-3 millimeters, maybe 1/8 of an inch into the blade. My jury is still out on the thumb studs versus the thumb hole. Start thinking about it, guys. I'm going to ask for your opinion down the road. I think a lot of people who skipped this model will go for the Mini. All of these blades are made out of M390 MK steel. And in 2025, it's no longer a mystery. We all know that it's basically regular Bowler M390 super clean with some kind of additive that makes it slightly tougher at the same hardness as the regular M390, but not perceptibly so that you would notice a difference as an end user. So here we go, the whole family portrait here, and now let's get into the actual review. Let's do some quick size comparison. Here's the stitch and amphibious. Here's military. That is just a little bigger than MSI. Let's put that away. Here's paramilitary 2 in PM3. And here is Manix 2 lightweight and Manix XL. Now, that is a true competitor here, and the lightweight is still a little bigger than the Mini MSI. Benchmade Adira. Oh, yeah. In the same ballpark, and Mini Adira, which is a little bigger. And to circle back to Microtech's iconic knives, this is a LUD, a UDT, and here's the Ultratech. This is a ZBP version, although when I bought it, it was still called ZBT. Let's weigh the things. Starting with the original MSI, that was 135 grams or 4.8-ish ounces. The aluminum MSI, 166 grams or 5.8, 5.9 ounces. The titanium MSI, 198 grams or 7 ounces. And finally, the Mini MSI is 102 grams, which is 3.6 ounces. In order to do the hardness test, I took the blade out. The bearings are actually multi-row, but reduced diameter. So it's not obvious at a first glance, but if you look at these three and so on, they're in line, which means radially they're offset. So it's technically a double row bearing, but the bearing area is reduced due to smaller diameter of the bearing. Another thing I will do before testing the hardness, I'm going to show you what the cutting edge looks like under the microscope. And for that, I'm using my handheld, inexpensive Amazon Kimika microscope that has USB-C connection and comes with its own app. So, pretty typical sharpening quality from Microtech. It's definitely not a custom level sharpened edge. You can see some evidence of stropping, but it looks like there might be still some burr left at the apex. Let's turn the apex head on. No, it's actually pretty decent. What you see is a little bit of a dirt, probably coming from playing with a knife a little bit. There you go. So we're looking at the apex straight on, and there's some burr and a little bit of rounding off. This could have been done a little better. If a factory edge can bite into an unsupported free-hanging paper towel, it's sharp. I would give it maybe 7.5 out of 10. It definitely cuts in, but let me try the... This is one MSI that I haven't been carrying at all. Yeah, that's more like 9 out of 10, or 10 out of 10, I would even say. Much sharper edge. Before I shoot a video of any hardness test, I verify the calibration of my Rockwell hardness tester using this NIST certified calibration block. It's serialized and rated 61.99 or 62 HRC, and the serial number and the hardness are mentioned here in the paperwork, which came from phase 2. I place the block on the anvil and raise the anvil toward the stationary diamond tipped penetrator, applying the minor load of 50 kilograms. And I know that it's properly applied when the small hand in the middle of the dial lines up with the red dot. After setting the zero on the main hand, I release the major load of 150 kilos, and then after 10 seconds I get the measurement as 62 on the spot, which means my tester is properly calibrated. Now I'm placing the blade, same approach. The difficulty with the smaller blades, sometimes it's hard to find a location which has to be 3 millimeters from any edge of the part or component in order to give an accurate reading. And this blade is a lot smaller than the original. First poke gives me 61.7 HRC, which is actually a decent hardness for M390. This is, of course, M390 MK, which is supposed to give you increased toughness at the same hardness as M390 would be. The second poke, I'm concerned a little bit the way the major load applied, and definitely got a bad measurement here because I placed the penetrator too close to the edge of that bearing recess. So I have to remeasure, no big deal. So these testers leave permanent marks on the blade that look like little tiny craters. That's why I'm trying to take measurements where it's not visible on the blade. 61.8 HRC, that's more like it. Again, this is an excellent range for the steel, but it doesn't inform me whether or not cryogenic treatment was used after every stage of the heat treatment process. Because if they did use cryogenic treatment, we would be able to rise above 62. 61.7 on the third poke, which gives me an average of 61.7 overall with repeatability of plus or minus 0.1. This full-size MSI with a birth date of August of 2023. I measured hardness several times with leap tester and Rockwell tester, and every time I got 60.7 HRC. This should tell you guys how important it is to support small, independent, unaffiliated channels, which through diligent testing and honest reviews help us move the industry in the right direction together. As I reassembled the blade onto the knife, I decided to let my imagination and the Sharpie run wild. You see, I happen to really like this aggressive looking finger hole on the blade, and here I'm trying to show you how MSI 80 would look with this similar style cutout. By the way, guys, at Microtech, the dimensions on this knife were reduced by 15 to 20%. It's totally cool if you call it MSI 80 analogously with Ultratech's. That's an appropriate name for the knife. And comparing with the original, it doesn't strike me as a mini. It's just smaller. MSI 80 sounds a lot better. Let's take a vote in the comments on that one. I think these thumb studs on the blade give the knife a look of a surprised fish, you know, with the eyes rolling out. If you're worried about integrity of the blade, and that's why you didn't want to put a big thumb hole, just make it a recess. That's perfectly fine with us. There's plenty of area there to get a good grip. I can basically open the knife without the thumb studs and without using the hole from the thumb studs. So a small recess on both sides of the blade would give us an option of flicking it on the reverse or on the front. And it would make the knife look as aggressive as the original, instead of a surprise squeed look. Seriously, what does the community think about that one? I just realized I didn't show you the actual exact dimensions. We got 7.5 inches overall length, which translates into 187 millimeters. Blade length is 3 3/16 of an inch, or 81-ish millimeter. The cutting edge is 2 15/16, which translates into 73 millimeters. And here's the full-length MSI with the overall length of 8 15/16 of an inch, and in millimeters it's 226 millimeters. And it has a 3 7/8 long blade, which translates into 98 millimeters, with a cutting edge of 3 7/16, almost 3.5 inch, and 87 millimeters. What I can't give you in this video is the most important measurement, at least to the Microtech, and Marfion's is how well this knife will sell. I predict in 2026 this is going to be a sales beast. Many people commented to me that they passed on MSI because it's such a huge knife. Not everyone can comfortably carry it in the pocket and then pull it out and use it in public. This knife, that is by no means a small knife, was brought back to normal EDC size, and that's why people will jump at the opportunity to buy it, especially when it comes out in the less expensive trims, or in this trim but with more exciting colorways.